Hello everybody! Okay, so this is gonna be a video about poetry and actually about writing. If you follow me on Tumblr, you know that I've been basically announcing over and over again that I finally got to self-publish a little book of poetry. And now I'm all happy about it, like, yay, I'm finally making a name for myself, or I'm actually starting to make a name for myself. And I'm just proud. I'm proud of that fact. Like, I'm not trying to gloat, I'm not trying to sound egotistical. But, I'm sure if you were a writer and you finally got to achieve one of your goals that you've had since God knows when, you'd be pretty happy too. And I know that you're probably tired of hearing me spam it, but if you're interested in purchasing my poetry book, Hell in a Basket, if you're watching this on YouTube, the link to the site is in the description, or if you're watching this on Tumblr, it's in the caption. But here's the thing about my poetry book though. It's short, and I'm not gonna lie to you, and this might sound cliche really badly. To me personally, it's not my best work. Granted that actually a few of the poems that's in this collection are some that I wrote and that I was very proud of and I wanted to eagerly add to the collection. But there are others that I wrote way back, before I actually even had knowledge of poetry and how it should have been written or how I should go about writing it. So they seem to me a little sophomoric and even mediocre. Those are the words that I've been describing it as. And I know everybody who writes or does some sort of art usually says stuff like that, like, oh, it's not my best work, and yada yada yada. But I'm just being truthful. I think it's a good read, personally, because the way I have the book constructed is it starts off me talking about my home life, and then it gets into my anxiety. I have a couple of anxiety poems. Then I talk about the addiction and alcoholism that I've witnessed firsthand, and then I go into the deep poem A Father to My Mother, which I know a couple of my Tumblr people have read and have actually told me like wow and all that stuff. And then it gets into like the nature-ish poems. I talk about being in a long distance relationship. Like, you get the hint that I'm in a long distance relationship and stuff like that. And it ties in. To me personally, I think it ties in. The only regret that I have about it is I wish I could have waited and have it be longer, because it's only like 26 pages, and that's like really nothing. If anything, it's a chapbook. It's not even a collection, it's just a chapbook, but I'm calling it a collection because it really is. If you buy it paperback, it's a collection. There's like at least, I don't know, like 20 or so poems, because there's 26 pages. Only a couple of them take up 2 pages, so it has to be about 20. So yeah, if you're at all interested, please, by all means, check it out. I haven't gotten any reviews of it yet because it was literally just published last week. So, and I've only had a couple of sales. But it would mean the world to me and more if you did support it. I am going to be having new stuff coming out soon. My short story that I've been writing, the last web chat, is near completion. All I have to do is just finish it, edit it, and then submit it, and then hopefully it'll be up, and that'll be up for purchase too. And that's actually something I'm going to be proud of because of the message, the moral in it, and it's actually something to me really heartfelt and something that we really should discuss. And I don't want to give too much of it away, because if I do, then the plot will be ruined and blah blah blah. So be on the lookout. And then after that, I'm not sure if I'm going to go right into maybe writing another novel, or maybe I'll work on another collection of poetry, a significantly longer collection of poetry. That would be nice to sort of write like the Colossus of a new generation. And if you don't know what the Colossus is, it's the collection of poetry that Sylvia Plath published. I'm not comparing myself to her at all. I love her and respect her. I'm not comparing myself. I'm just saying. But now, if I can, I'd like to answer a couple of questions that I've received on my Tumblr regarding writing. I've been asked, like, what's my inspiration for writing? And my inspiration, really, is anything that happens to me in my personal life, or just in anything in general. Anything really can inspire me. I wrote a poem, which is actually in the poetry collection, called I Found Evil in a Gum Wrapper. And it's literally a poem about a guy who's prostituting himself for drugs, and each time he's prostituting himself, he sees this gum wrapper that's just laying on the floor randomly. I got that idea literally by looking down at the floor in my room, and I noticed that there was a gum wrapper underneath my closet door. And then out of nowhere, 5 lines came into my head. I quickly jotted them down, and then there you go. That poem was born. Anything can be inspiration if you know how to use it. Any ideas that come to you, you should just write them down and stuff like that. Keep a notebook on you handy, just so, like, because I don't know if any of you are writers. I know some of you must be, if you're watching this, must be a writer. You ever get that thing where you're out somewhere, you have an awesome idea for something, and you actually come up with a couple of lines for it, or some scenes or whatever, but you have nothing to write it down on, and you think, oh, I'll remember it when I get home. Then when you get home and you remember, and you go to try to write it down, it's gone. That is one of the worst feelings ever, especially for a writer. So keep something on you. You know what you can do too? You can use your phone and use your memo pad and just type out, quick little thing, a couple of words, and then that'll jog your memory. That's what I've done. People have asked me, I also had this one question from somebody. They said they have a story in their head and they don't know how to get it out. And they were asking basically for tips. And my tip to that basically is just write. Like, okay, so you have a story idea in your head. Awesome. Open up Microsoft Word or take out your notebook and just write down what the plot is. Write down like what you think would be on the back cover, what the story is about. And then, think more about the characters, think more about their constructions, and think more about the plot and how the plot's going to unfold, and then the leading actions, the rising actions, the falling actions, and the climaxes, and all of that. Think of all of that stuff that's going to happen. Then, when you feel ready to, just write it. Write your first draft. And now here's the thing with that. People sometimes think that what they write right on there is going to be what they're going to publish. No, that's almost never not the case. If anything, that's just your first draft, and it's going to be shitty. Take the first draft, see how you wrote it, go back and make some edits, or then just restart. Restart with the knowledge that you have from that previous draft, and then just, you go on, and you evolve it, and then you turn it into whatever story it is that you want to convey. I know it might sound a little harder than it really is, because writing really is actually hard, unless you're like somebody who's like a college professor who can write 1,000 words in 2 seconds. But everybody has a story in them. It just matters on how you express it. It matters how you write it. If you can write out a story, awesome. If you can get it published, that's even more awesome. If you can't get it published, then share it. If you're on Tumblr, or if you're on even like websites like DeviantArt or some other forums where it's mainly writing discussions, show it. That's also a good way to get criticism and ask for criticism. And that'll help you. That'll help you realize what some readers want. And then you can take, what they want and then mix it with what you want, and then everybody's happy. You just really gotta know how to express it. But really, if you can get a story out of you, that's awesome. So my advice to that would be to just write. Just hammer it out. Slap your keyboard a couple of times. Do whatever you need to do in order to get yourself to write, and then go with it. And that's my advice for that person who asked me that. But now, please take in mind that I am not a professional writer by any means. I never took any classes for writing other than the classes I took in middle school and high school, English classes I mean. I never went to college for it, I never took any online classes. All I did really was read, research, and then I wrote how I wanted to write. And I think that's the best way. Nobody's going to teach you how you should write. You need to teach yourself how to write so it satisfies you, and while at the same time you can even find readers to satisfy as well. And that's all. But if you want to take my advice to heart, then go right ahead. All I really just said was to just write. That's the best thing you can say is just write, just write, just write. So yeah, like I said, if you're interested in my poetry collection, click the link below. I don't know what website you're watching this on, but regardless, it will be below. And I just burped. And be on the lookout for anything else that I will be publishing soon, because it will be soon. And I'm actually really excited about it. And I'll talk to you guys later. Love ya.